Welcome to today's vlog. So today's vlog, I'm going to be talking you through some exercises that I do to reduce my risk of injury. So these are exercises that I've picked up from years working in gyms, watching content, learning educational content around running, and ultimately from getting injured myself, because that does happen a fair amount. So these are things my physio's recommended, and I would probably recommend that you do before you get an injury. Injuries like IT bands, hamstring tears, and so on and so forth. No one wants that, but again, we only ever seem to do prehab exercises when it's too late or that we're injured. So put these in your workout. I'll try and record in the gym. However, it might be busy. So if it's busy, I don't want to be that guy, but it is what it is. We'll see. Just got back from Cornwall. So yeah, if you like the video, give us a shout.
So a lot of the exercises that I'm going to be doing today, I've learned from physio. Essentially, I have the toxic tendency of only going to physio. Well, I did have the toxic tendency to only go to physio when I had an injury. Therefore, it was always like post-injury, I'd do the exercises. Now, I'm doing these exercises all of the time to make sure that I am the best athlete I can be and to be in the best kind of running shape that I can be. Remember, if you're coming from a gym-based background, yes, you might be strong. Yes, your ligaments and tendons might be strong. Your muscles might even be strong. But a lot of the time, a lot of the training we've been doing is not dynamic enough for what we're going to be doing with the running side of things. And I've found that the hard way. I've actually been quite lucky with injuries, touch wood. A lot of them have been managed, and I've been managed to kind of pick up on them before they've become a reality, really, or a bigger issue. I'm probably a bit OCD about that, maybe a little bit of health anxiety. But today's session is just going to be going through the exercise that I'd recommend. So if you like them, just kind of watch the video and save them and put them in your workout. I'd probably say be doing these like 2 or 3 times a week, building them up. Some of them I'm better at than others I'm absolutely shocking at. So you'll probably see that.
So first up, we have a single leg calf raise. And yes, a very boring exercise. However, so important. Your calf is probably the most used muscle in your running technique. So my physio recommends that you should be trying to work up to being able to do 30 single leg calf raises in a row. And yes, this will hurt. And yes, this is a humbling exercise. As you can see, all you need is a step-up box and a bench. The bench is optional. The reason I like to be in this position because it mimics my running form, and that leg out in front, again, mimics my running form. However, you want to make sure that you're not putting too much pressure through that supporting leg, and that you're going 3 seconds on the way down, pausing in the length and range, and then contracting right up onto your toe and using your big toe. So another one, using a step-up box. You'll also need a kettlebell for this exercise. And within this exercise, we're going to be training your hip flexor. Again, a very important muscle during your running technique. I would suggest that you need to hook your toe into the kettlebell. And as you can see here, we're trying to drive our knee up. A lot of the training that people do only really trains their quads, their calves, their glutes. But the hip flexor is a very important muscle and often just gets forgotten about because people normally think they have tight hip flexors. But I do think strengthening them will really help your running form and getting your knees through in the movement. So next up, we have a Copenhagen Plank. And this muscle works your adductors, your obliques, your abdominals, your glutes. It's pretty much a staple and should be a staple in any runner's workout program. To make this movement easier, you can move your leg further down the bench. So essentially, if you move the bench closer to your knee, you will get more support in this movement and it will make it easier. You eventually want to get to just your foot being on the bench. And as you can see, it's a really tough exercise, and this is one that I really do struggle with. The key is that your shoulders need to be over your elbow, your hips need to be off the floor, and you need to lift your non-working leg off the floor because that is also a workout. I would suggest that you want to do max holds here. So try and do around 3 sets of your max hold, grin and bear it. It's an absolute staple in my training program and is one of the few exercises along with Nordic hamstring curls that are really going to improve your running and reduce your risk of injury. So next we have a side plank with abduction. So this movement is working your obliques, internal and external. It's working your glute med, your glute minimus and TFL, your transverse abdominis, and pretty much every muscle in your body. So the hardest version of this exercise is where your foot is on the floor and essentially you're abducting your leg out to the side. As you can see, I very quickly go into where my knee is on the floor. This is easier than the version I showed first because obviously less of your body weight is going through your glutes and your obliques. I would say do as many reps as you can here, or 10 to 15 reps. So next up is banded ankle inversion, and this is pretty niche and specific to my running needs. So I've noticed, as you can probably see from my social media, I spend a lot of time on camera, and from the videos that I've seen of myself running, I can see that I land on the outside of my foot within my running stride. In terms of optimality, this is not great because ultimately what I'm missing out on there is the strength in the arch of my foot and the strength in my big toe. Realistically, I want to be landing on the ball of my foot and rolling through onto my big toe and getting all of the power from my foot. What I'm doing here is actually training the muscle on the outside of my shin, and this should hopefully strengthen that muscle so that when I land a little bit more neutral and on the natural arch of my foot. As you can see, I'm using a band. The further your leg goes away from the working foot, the more tension going through that leg. Next, we have Tibialis Raises, and this is an absolute exercise that I think any runner should be doing if you want to get rid of shin splints, if you want to reduce your risk of getting shin splints. All you need here is a kettlebell and a bench. Again, you hook the kettlebell over your toe, you point your toe away from you, and then squeeze your toe up. And what you're going to start to feel is a burning sensation on your shin, and this is working your tibialis muscle, which takes a lot of impact during running. So next we have a seated calf raise. So lots of gyms will have a machine for this. I would recommend doing it single leg because again, running is a single leg movement and there's always going to be a disparity between each leg. However, my gym does not have a single leg calf raise or seated calf raise, so I have to do it with a Smith machine. Again, you'll need a bench, a step up box, and I'd recommend a bar pad so that you don't bruise your pretty little knees. All you're trying to do here is go all the way down, pause in that length and range, and then really contract up onto your toes. Really focus on that peak contraction because what we're going to be getting here is a lot of gastrocnemic work and your soleus will be working really hard within this movement. In terms of reps and sets, 3 sets is usually a good ballpark and anywhere between 10 to 15 reps, increasing the load over time.
So that's the end of the session then. So I completed all the exercises and my legs are pretty fucked after that, I must admit. This is like a Sunday roundup for me, so I do put those exercises into my leg days, but I also, why isn't it focusing on me? But I also make sure that I do them kind of as a standalone session. And again, when you do them all in a row, you feel pretty ruined. To be fair, it's a different type of feeling compared to potentially like just ending yourself in a gym session. It feels a lot more acute and almost like it's pinpointing those muscles. Again, it's not the big movements that you might be doing in your normal gym sessions, like the powerlifting, the heavy weights. It's more about finding areas, small movements that within a running gait or within your running technique, you might do 100, 1,000 times within a run. But if you consistently do them with an imbalance or incorrectly, will result in long-term stress issues. And that is the issue with running. And that's why you're much more likely to get injured with running, because ultimately, if there are those fine imbalances, you are emphasizing them with the lengths of your run because you're doing them a lot, whether that's foot placement, whether that's the way you pick your leg up, whether that's the poor cadence, whatever it is, like you're going to find yourself getting injured. And that is ultimately what's going to hinder your ability to become a good runner, because most of the time better runners do higher mileage. And the thing that stops most people, like mere mortals like me as well, like because I cannot get my mileage up for the fucking sake of it, is the fact that we get injured when we increase our mileage because 1, we might not be conditioning our body enough, or 2, we just don't have the kind of understanding on how to do it properly. So if you enjoyed the video, it's a very short video today, but hopefully that's got tons of value for you. And hopefully you'll be able to sit down, relax, and be able to do these within your session.